All right. NFL has officially become crazy. These divisional playoffs, would you agree, JD, that the Cowboys-Packer game is probably one of the best NFL games you've seen in a couple of years, with the comeback and how well both quarterbacks played and how defense stepped up whenever they needed to? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it definitely was one of the best games. I say this is one of the top 10 games I've seen in the past 5 years.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, that's all I always ask. What stood out to you in that football game?
What really stood out to me is that how much a factor the refs had in the game. I'm not blaming the refs for the reason why the Cowboys lost the game.
Yes.
But because they missed calls on the Cowboys when they were on defense. But I strongly believe if they would have gotten the one call where I've never heard of a non-participation call ever before.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that before. If that's not called where Butler didn't even participate in the huddle, where he didn't even say anything. He stood there for a second and then he came back out. Like, that's not getting in the huddle in me. So if you take that away, Dallas is going to drive, and that's a touchdown. Touchdown or a field goal they're taking away from, and that could win them the ball game. But I mean, I'll give all the credit. Aaron Rodgers right now is playing like the best quarterback in the league. When I saw there was 35 seconds left to go, I was like, Lord, I hope not. But but Dak really impressed me. I was disappointed in how Dallas somewhat didn't lean on the run game more than they did. Because Zeke wasn't gashing them, but he was averaging 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, well, Zeke had a normal game for Ezekiel Elliott. He had 125 yards. He just didn't have a touchdown. That's because Prescott was just slinging the ball all over the field in the second half.
Yeah, because they had to throw it to keep up with the Green Bay. But I felt like if they would have controlled the time possession more by running the ball, because Zeke was doing it right. He was draining the time of possession. He was gaining 4 or 5 yards a carry, and then they would want to throw it with Dak just to get their offense off the field and get their defense back out there, save more time, I guess. But anyway, I just believe they didn't go about it the right way in the second half. I would have done things differently.
Okay. All right. Did you hear what Jason Garrett said after the game? Before we actually talk about the game. Actually, no. Let's go ahead and speak. I'm going to give my thoughts on this game. And what you said about the Malcolm Butler penalty, the non-participation, unsportsmanlike conduct. What? Zach, what'd you say? If you're going to speak to me, you got to say it.
Malcolm Butler plays for the
Who did I
Patriots.
say? I said Malcolm Butler? I don't even know his first name. But Butler for the Cowboys.
Bryce Butler.
Is it Bryce Butler? That
Yep.
doesn't sound like a football name. But, hey, maybe he's in the NFL. He's not worrying about that. But even he has said that he has never seen that call ever before in his life. And, I know it's a penalty. I know it is because you had, Troy Aikman, the guy a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Cowboys, calling the game. And he even said, okay, this is a good call. Like, he's in the huddle, which he wasn't. He stood by the huddle. But I guess when they mean he's in the huddle, means that he's there at the huddle, just not in it, but he's there. I'm assuming that's what that penalty is.
Yeah.
But that I think that's what changed that game. When you can't give Aaron Rodgers the hottest quarterback, not looks wise, but on the field, hey, that's Tom Brady. Calm down, here. And come on, Patriot lover, you know that's true. But you cannot give him the ball 35 seconds left in a game like this because that's what he's mastered his game as. He's got 3 Hail Mary touchdowns to win a game in the past 2 years, I think.
Yep.
And then he makes that incredible throw and then an amazing catch by Jared Cook, I believe, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was Jared Cook.
Yeah. That was one of the most amazing catches I've ever seen. And I think that's a moment of, kind of for the Packers that could eventually get them to the Super Bowl. I think, every team usually has that one play in the playoffs. It's just like, wow. And I think that's exactly what that was. But you can't give Aaron Rodgers that much time. First off, do you think Aaron Rodgers solidified his at least to be a valid consideration for the MVP now, even though he had a crappy year to start off?
Well, yeah. What I thought was going into this weekend when it came to discussion on MVP. I figured that whoever got to the conference championship games out of Zeke Elliott, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, whoever plays, I think whoever performs the best this weekend will get crowned MVP. And even though Brady is getting harped on by that 4-game suspension, if he comes out and lights up Pittsburgh's defense for 4 scores and over 400 yards, and Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers play like crap, you got to give it to Tom.
All right, well, Matt Ryan, great game. Let's go ahead and talk to that real quick. We'll come back to Cowboys and Packers here in a minute. But what you see in the Falcons Seahawks game, Jay? What did you see in? Why did Russell Wilson look so different than he usually does in playoff?
I'll be honest. I was working during this game. From the highlights of what I saw, it just looked like the Falcons' defense has grown since 2 years ago when they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL. That's what Dan Quinn can do for you.
Yeah.
But what really impresses me, it's not Matt Ryan. It's the running game where they're so deadly with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. That's what, and not a lot of people look at that as to being a key factor of why the pass game is so effective, because the defense has to respect that run game from those two beasts back there, in my opinion. I just believe that it's a powerful force when you have that 1-2 punch.
Yeah, and looking at the stats before my computer shut down, Coleman the leading rusher with only 59 yards, but Freeman was the leading receiver in that game with 80 yards and 4 catches. And I think that shows how I think Matt Ryan is actually growing. Yes, because he's always had Julio Jones on the outside. But now I feel like he's definitely starting to spread the ball around. He's becoming more of like an Aaron Rodgers type quarterback, to where it's kind of rare to see a Packer, besides maybe Jordy Nelson, to have like a really big game receiving. Because I think, what was it? Aaron Rodgers had, I think, 5 completions to 5 different players in the first half. And to spread the ball around like that definitely spreads the defense out, not focusing on one player like he would if Jordy Nelson was like, if he was any other quarterback, Jordy Nelson would be probably getting about 2 or 3 more targets a game, maybe more. But Aaron Rodgers, he's just like Tom Brady. He's that type of quarterback that makes every single receiver probably about 2 times as better as they actually are, as good as they are. I was having a conversation with someone earlier, and he made a good point that besides Jordy Nelson, there's probably only one receiver on that team that would start for another NFL team, and that's Randall Cobb. If you think about it.
Don't think Devontae Adams would be starting for anybody else?
It depends, Jitty, because if...
Yeah, I agree that Aaron Rodgers makes the receivers better, but cheese and rice, Dylan. Devontae Adams is a freak.
Wait, cheese and... You say cheese and rice?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Devontae, I would take...
I know what you thought I said, too.
What?
I know what you thought I said.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, you know what I think. We're brothers. Get over it. But I would take Randall Cobb over Devontae Adams every day of the week. I see something in Randall Cobb, especially his rookie year. I don't know why. I've always liked Randall Cobb since that game against the Saints, I believe it was, the first game of the year.
Returned that kickoff.
Yeah, he returned that kickoff, and I think he had another reception.
I can specifically remember myself going and picking him up off the waiver wire.
Yes, I did the exact same thing. But with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, those are the 2 quarterbacks, and Peyton Manning did the same thing as well. But I see Matt Ryan doing the exact same thing now. He's starting to trust his receivers more.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. Peyton Manning, he never really... I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but to me, he never had a receiving core like Aaron Rodgers or Brady did. He always had that one stud receiver in Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Demaryius Thomas. Like, he always had that one stud receiver that is considered a top 10 receiver in the league.
Was Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, were they together?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, I think they were together at one
But
point.
after-
Then he also had Dallas Clark, probably one of
Yeah.
the most efficient tight ends to play in
See,
the 2000s.
Peyton, that's where I draw the line when it comes to Peyton and Tom as the greatest of all time discussion. Because Brady, other than Randy Moss for that 1 year and Gronk for the past 6 years, he really hasn't had a stud receiver, and he's putting up. He's considered one of the greatest.
That's true. Like I said, he makes everyone better.
Yeah.
He's just the type of quarterback that will place the ball exactly where they need it. Kind of like LeBron James when he passes. He knows exactly which shooter wants where each shooter wants the ball when thrown to him. But let's go back to the Cowboys Packers. And okay, Jason Garrett after the game said he refuses to name Dak Prescott as a starting quarterback for next year. What the heck is that about? You have hey, Zach, bring up his career stats, Dak Prescott, just this year. Because I can't say career because it's only been this year. But how can you sit there and a rookie quarterback who has a 104.9 passer rating, 3,600 yards and 23 touchdowns, and I think he only has like 5 interceptions on the year. How can you sit there and say he's not your starter next year? What is it? Do you think that's like a mental strategy? What is that about?
You want me to tell you what that is, Dylan?
Tell me what that is.
This is Jason Garrett. It's Jerry Jones. That's all it is. It's Jerry Jones saying that since he still has Tony Romo on his roster, there is going to be a quarterback battle for next year.
Why? What's the point in that?
Because he's paying him $22 million a year. But
Trade him away.
I
know-
guarantee he's going to be traded away. Let's hope Steven, is it his grandson?
Yeah, I think so.
Steven Jones, let's hope he talks some sense into him. Get some draft picks from Denver for Tony.
Or get some draft picks from Cleveland because they'll be very high up there.
Please, get Tony out of Dallas. His time in Dallas is over. Dak has proved it Sunday that he can throw with the best of them. He gunsling for gunsling with Aaron Rodgers on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, he sat there and that one interception he had
Was just it was a rookie mistake.
I honestly would say, yeah, it was a rookie mistake, but it was an awful play call.
That true?
He didn't read that. I think it was a safety. He didn't read the safety, creeping up. But why would you? I think it was on second down. Why would you throw a little smoke screen flare pass to? I think it was Cole Beasley, right there inside your own territory. Whenever the middle of the field's open, basically all game.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I thought to myself that was a terrible play call. It was a bad
From where
throw.
they were at, I felt like they should have ran a fade route with Dez and thrown it back shoulder and let Dez go get it.
See, I just anything but that. But I think that was just a coaching error, and it wasn't just his fault. But then also Aaron Rodgers, I would say one thing: Aaron Rodgers. If I had an MVP vote, I would sit there and say Aaron Rodgers all day. You just can't do what he's doing. I think 18 touchdowns? No, 21 touchdowns and 1 interception the past 8 games. You can't get better than that. I don't think you really can. But the one thing I was really impressed with Dallas was definitely Dez Bryant stepping up in the playoff. He scored his first postseason touchdown. And then he had another one after that, 132 yards on 9 receptions. That's something you don't see out of Dez Bryant this year at all. You did not see anything from Dez Bryant like this game. So he definitely stepped up in the biggest game of the year. But before we have a caller, but before we get to that, I'm going to bring up this question. Stephen A. Smith on First Take on ESPN said that, he hates the Cowboys. He really hates the Cowboys. But he said that the Cowboys season is a tragic disappointment. So how do you call this Cowboy season a tragic disappointment? I would understand if Dak Prescott was I'll say maybe Tony Romo, even Tom Brady's age, to where, say, if it wasn't Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's age, Ezekiel Elliott was maybe his 5th year in, and you didn't have all these rookies leading the way and basically having a rookie quarterback leading you to a number 1 overall seed and a first-round bye. and expecting them to go in and win a Super Bowl. See, that was my take from the very beginning, that I was hoping the Cowboys win a Super Bowl because I'd love to see the hometown guy win a Super Bowl. But how do you expect a rookie quarterback and running back to go up and I was very impressed at how well he matched up with Aaron Rodgers. It's just Aaron Rodgers just outlasted him. Too much experience on both sides of the football for the Packers, playoff-wise.
Too much time left. And
Yeah, it's just a big thing. But
I could see where Stephen A is coming from. I'm not saying I agree with him. I could just see where he's coming from as saying, yes, they went 13-3. They got the number 1 overall seed in the NFC playoffs. You're at home all the way to the Super Bowl. You're expected to
Of course they're
win.
expected because
That's what he means
is
by
Cowboy
disappointment.
Nation.
I don't think it's a disappointment, though. I think that they exceeded expectations. As they went down the drain, I think they were predicted 3rd before the season started to finish in that division. After Tony Romo went down, that's a success to me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we got a caller, and it's Gator. Gator, what's going on? Are you there? Gator. Producer Zach, did you lose him? You didn't? You there?
Hey.
Hey, Hank, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, man? Hold on a minute.
All right, well, what's going on there? I don't know. Okay, well, if you can see or hear us, what do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the Cowboys season.
Okay.
And the season that should have been, could have been, but lacked the 2 most necessary things to be a Super Bowl winning season.
All right. So, okay. Well, let me ask you this: do you agree with Stephen A. Smith that not to the fans? Of course, the season that game was a disappointment to all the fans, but just in general to everyone around the NFL with how they played in a regular season. Do you think that the season was just a waste of time now because of them losing to the Packers?
Oh, no, I wouldn't consider it a waste of time. I think they built valuable. You saw 2 valuable young pro stars there develop. It's got to be disappointing for a team to only lose 2 regular season games, and to fans that are huge Cowboy backers, to go out in such dismal fashion. And I say dismal fashion because I don't care who you are. Your expectations have got to be, you're 14-2. You've got the best record in the NFL. I don't want to hear, how good we played or how hard we played. I mean, there is no excuse for you not winning that football game. Now, football, that is the reason why the game is played, because it's not played on paper. But, 8 out of the 10 times the Cowboys play the Packers, the Cowboys win that football game. This particular night or afternoon, 2 things. One thing, first of all, prevented, I think, them from winning this particular game. And I'm going to see if you can guess what that is.
Did he guess?
The lack of dynamic play call on the offense or defensive side of the ball from the Cowboys.
I would sit there and say the playoff experience, like I said earlier.
I'm going to say the most important thing would have prevented, and I did not predict the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, simply because the most important thing, in my opinion, that prevented the Cowboys from winning the Super Bowl would have been the lack of a dynamic defense. Okay.
Yeah, that defense did not show up in that first half.
Right.
Which was a huge factor.
You look at the teams that are left in the playoffs right now, okay? What is the one team that I think we would all predict is going to win the Super Bowl, who should win the Super Bowl? Of course, that's why they play the game. But this is also a reason that the Packers will not win the Super Bowl and the Falcons will not win the Super Bowl, is because I don't care what running back you got. I don't care who gets the ball, puts their hands in between the center's legs. I don't care how hell of an great of an offensive line you got. If you do not have a steady kick you in the mouth defense, you're not going to win a Super Bowl.
All right, so
Okay.
who do you think on that? Well, apparently, so the NFC you think's not going to win the Super Bowl. So who do you think on the AFC side is going to win? Then you think it's going to be the Steelers?
Well, let me stay on my track if you don't mind here.
All right.
Okay. So you must have a defense, a great defense, okay, to win the Super Bowl. I.e., the Saints. The year they won the Super Bowl, great offense, even more of a dynamic defense. Pittsburgh, the championships that they have won in the past, great offense, dynamic defense. Patriots, great offense, dynamic defense. Every time they've won the Super Bowl. The Giants, good offense, dynamic defense. Cowboys, 2016 season, great offense, subpar, average defensive play. That won't get it done. But that, in my opinion, is the reason why the Cowboys went out and won the Super Bowl. The reason the Cowboys did not win the game on Sunday with the Packers is the fact that they had nobody. They had no one superstar who came up and grabbed the moment, all right, took it, and won that football game. There was not one dynamic leader on that team that took that game. Aaron Rodgers did. Aaron Rodgers came up. He took the game over. The Packers won.
Yeah, and the thing I was going to bring up about Aaron Rodgers taking the game over, I agree with you what you said about the defense. That was my worry. Besides the experience around the team, but also the defense, because they early on in the season the Cowboys really lacked pass rush, and then they found it in someone that came out of nowhere and someone that JD brought up a while back, and I think that was it
David Irving.
Yeah, David Irving, and a young talent that I think if he sticks around Dallas is going to be a huge impact player. But Aaron Rodgers taking over the team, past, like what did I say, 22 touchdowns, 1 interception, past 8 games. But then in this game, this is a team where a third string receiver was put in at running back for the past, I think, 4 or 5 games in Ty Montgomery. And Ty Montgomery actually ran the ball really well on this Cowboy defense. It was 11 carries for 47 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns, but he also got some crucial first downs in that game to keep the drive alive. So what does that say even more about Aaron Rodgers and how they have a god-awful running game and they're still able to put up 34 points? And, as I was just talking to JD about how they don't have any dynamic receivers either, especially with their best receiver, Jordy Nelson, out of the game and most likely out of the NFC Championship as well. So, Gator, before you go, I want your prediction for the NFC Championship game. What do you think is going to happen between the Packers and the Falcons?
I think, a lot of people are really undershadowing the Falcons. I think the Falcons' offense, is honestly probably one of the top 10 best offenses that have ever been in football. I think that they have, when they are healthy, that receiving core they have is unbelievable. Julio Jones can take over a football game in the matter of 2 quarters. When they can run the football, they're very hard to beat. When their offensive line is executing, and they have the whole package together, and Julio really takes over a football game, it is a very hard team to beat. Now, with that being said, their defense, in my opinion, is a subpar defense, kind of like the Packers. The difference is the Packers have a dynamic leader with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers makes your whole football team step up when things matter and times count.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan is still, is he still that leader? Is he able to take the next step up and become the dynamic leader of his football team? Is going to lead his team to a championship. Leaders in any type of organization, whether it's football, business, they lead others to excel to a higher level than what they're normally able to do. And that is a lot what Aaron Rodgers does. Now, so anyway, to answer your question, I think Atlanta, goes to the Super Bowl, and I think they're doing it in a pretty convincing fashion this weekend.
All right.
One final question there, Gator, from me. What's your thoughts on Roger Goodell deciding not to attend New England this weekend and decided to go to Atlanta?
Oh, really? I did see where he was in Kansas City last weekend and not Dallas for that game, and they were raising a bunch of hoopla. My whole thought when they were talking about it.
Hold on one second, Gator. Zach, just turn the sound off on the computer.
Is it not your computer?
I don't think so. Oh, it might be. All right, continue.
Yeah, my whole thought process around that was, well, he's the man. He's the man with the plan. He's the boss. He can go wherever he wants to. And if you don't like it, what are you really going to do to him?
No, nothing. You can't do anything.
I don't think it matters. Honestly, I don't think it matters what defense shows up, what commissioner goes to what football game. I think in the end of the day, I don't think it matters what type of environment you play in. You play in 85-degree weather, you play in the dome, you play outside. I think the New England Patriots, are a class act of football, class act of the way they run the organization, and I think barring a choke of all proportions, which I can't see Tom Brady doing, that's the Super Bowl champion.
Probably the most clutch quarterback of all time besides Aaron Rodgers. But in Super Bowl, I'll probably say it's Tom Brady. But all right, Gator from Benton with some insight of the divisional playoffs. All right, man, thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll get you on soon again.
10-4.
All right, man, talk to you later. All right, but with that being said, JD, let's move on. Since we just talked about the Cowboys, Packers, and the Falcons with the Packers and Falcons game, let's go ahead and move on to the AFC Championship, which I think is actually going to be a really decent football game because every Steeler-Patriot game, especially in the playoffs, is usually one to remember. So what are your thoughts, as a Patriot fan, what are your thoughts of the way Big Ben and Le'Veon Bell are playing going up against that Pat defense?
As a Patriots fan, I'll go ahead and say they're the one team right now that I saw coming into the AFC playoffs that they're the only team I thought that could give New England a shot. But I don't know what it is. Something about when Big Ben plays against Tom Brady in Foxborough, it doesn't end well for him. Look at the history. Look at his stats in Foxborough, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know exactly.
If this game was in Pittsburgh, I would be extremely worried. I would think that probably Pittsburgh would win this game, but since it's in Foxborough, and Matt Patricia, in my eyes, is the best defense coordinator in the NFL because of his ability. He'll give up yards, but his defense is a bend but we don't break defense, as they are top 3 defenses in the league in allowing points.
Okay. So you're taking the Patriots in this, aren't you?
Yeah, they're going to find a way to slow down Le'Veon and Antonio Brown.
Okay.
They're going to make Big Ben.
What's your factor for both teams? What's the X factor? What do the Patriots have to do to win this game, and what are the Steelers going to have to do to win this game?
The Steelers, what they have to do is play flawless defense. Not let Brady pick them apart. And for the Patriots, my main factor is control the time of possession, because I believe if you keep Big Ben and Le'Veon and Antonio Brown off the field and keep Boswell, or is that his name, the kicker? Boswell?
Yeah, I think so.
Keep Boswell away from inside the 50, we'll be good, because he's got a leg on him. But I just believe that they're going to slow down the run game, because Patriots are always stout in the run game, and their secondary is it's one of the best in the league. And as long as Tom Brady can just control the clock with pounding with LeGarrette Blount and running their normal offense, I think they'll be fine.
Okay. I think this is gonna be the best game to watch. Like last week, I know I got one thing right. I know I picked the game to watch. It was definitely I picked the Cowboys Packers. I think this is gonna be the game to watch. I think that this year is different because the Steelers have actually, yeah, they've never played with this either. But the Patriots never played the Steelers in the playoff with Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and Le'Veon Bell. And if I'm the Steelers, the X factor for me is to run the ball efficiently with Le'Veon Bell, and I think they're gonna be able to do that. He does that against everybody because you're starting to see all these things about Le'Veon Bell. They're showing the slow motion replays of how patient this guy is. This guy will sit there and literally stop in the backfield with his hand on the back of a tackle, and he will just sit there and just with this. Somehow he's got this speed of like, of Ray Lewis or even like a James Harrison getting off the line. Basically, he stops and he's just through the hole that fast.
There was a GIF on Twitter after the Chiefs and Steelers game that I saw where it looked like the play had stopped when I was watching Le'Veon, but when I was looking at other people, they were moving, and then it just... Whew.
Yeah, he's so patient in finding his holes, and that's why he was suspended for, the first 4 games or 10 games?
2.
First 2? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I get reduced. He missed the first 2 games of the year, and he's gotten 1,200 yards, and he's not a big touchdown machine like a LeGarrette Blount is but he gets those first downs. He keeps the drives going, and I think if Le'Veon Bell runs the ball efficiently and gives Big Ben the opportunity to open up the pass game, that I think that they might be able to get this Patriot defense on their heels. And
I'm ready for it.
And the scary thing is, honestly, JD, is imagine if they have Martavis Bryant on the field too. So the Patriots are lucky there.
I'm really interested to see how Malcolm Butler handles Antonio Brown all game.
Yeah, that was going to be my X factor right there. It was going to be that if they're able to lock down the receivers of the Steelers and mainly Antonio Brown, that they're going to have to make sure that they, because I think the Steelers are going to focus on the run game to keep Tom Brady and company off the football field. And that's what they're going to have to do. You can't let just like Aaron Rodgers, you can't let Aaron Rodgers on the field all game because that's when points start going up. And you don't want to have to keep up with the Patriots because the Patriots are probably one of the top 3 worst teams to try to keep up with because they can score at will. And so I think the Patriots are going to have to, if they're going to lock down the receivers of the Steelers, they're also going to have to find out how to basically make sure every single hole is plugged for Le'Veon Bell to not, because when Le'Veon Bell busted outside, he's effective, but just not as effective whenever he's patient and waiting for a hole to open up. So I think the Patriots defense have a huge crisis to deal with to figure out what they're going to do. I'm nothing against the Patriots, man, but I've got a good feeling about the Steelers. I think this is going to be the game to watch. I think this game is going to go down to the wire. Big Ben has been playing really well lately. He had a kind of a slow game against the Chiefs, but I think he's going to bounce back. And then I'm calling the Steelers over the Patriots by 3. I say it's a game-winning field goal. It's going to be very hard, but I think the Steelers' offense is going to prevail. I think they have a little bit of a better. What?
I just checked the weather for that game. It's got a 71% humidity rate at 36 degrees at kickoff.
All right. Well, both of these teams are used to the cold.
But that's one thing, man. It's just like I'm not trying to be. I'm not being biased here. I feel like I'm being realistic with this. It's when you go play Tom Brady in Foxborough in January, and it's cold. His level of play just goes to it. It's like Aaron Rodgers and Lambeau. It's unreal, and I just until I see it, I can't believe it.
Well, everything's got to happen. Everything's got to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
And is this going to be the downfall of Tom Brady?
No.
We'll see. But all right, guys, this has been the NFL Busted Play podcast. Dylan,
we didn't
Marsh.
even talk about Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I was just kind of hoping y'all wouldn't catch
Okay.
that. But no, we can talk about it real quick. A couple weeks ago, Le'Veon Bell said he is the Steph Curry of the NFL, the way he's changing the football game. Do you agree with that? Do you think we're going to start seeing more patient running backs waiting for the holes to open up, or you think there's going to be someone like a David Johnson who just basically, if there's no hole, and he's just going to bust to the outside and just try his best to not break a bone in his body and just throw people off of him? Because you would think a guy like Le'Veon Bell and his size that he would just be the guy to bust to the outside, be able to throw a couple guys off him just to get a few yards, but he's not.
I really don't like this comment from Le'Veon because it's not like people. NFL scouts are going to start looking at college running backs. Oh, is he running like Le'Veon? No, they're going to take whoever fits perfect for their franchise. Yes, he's not going to change the game from the running back perspective, but if I had to compare him to anybody in the NBA, I would have to say he's a lot like Dwayne Wade.
Wow. Okay. Cool. All right.
Who you thought I was going to say?
You know who I thought you were going to say LeBron.
No.
Okay.
I think
I was waiting
he's a
for it.
lot like Dwayne Wade. How he's got a lot of poise.
Quiet a little bit,
Yeah, quiet,
but also feisty.
and he's an all-star. So.
Yeah. All right, but what do you think of? I actually read something that after what Antonio Brown did after the win against the Chiefs, going on Facebook, going live during Mike Tomlin's post-game speech, talking to the players about getting ready for the Patriots, and I think he called the Patriots a bunch of a-holes. Is that correct, Producer Zach? That's correct. And he caught that, and ironically, it's Antonio Brown's doing this on Facebook while Mike Tomlin's telling them to get ready for this week and to quiet down on social media and don't get anything started. And look what happened. You have Antonio Brown, and then Mike Tomlin comes out today, and he the reason I like Mike Tomlin is because he doesn't treat any player like a superstar. Mm-hmm. This guy comes out, and he just straight up said that Antonio Brown, what he did was foolish, disrespectful, immature, and just inappropriate. And I really liked what he said about that because he's putting him in his place. He's letting Antonio Brown know that, what you did was pretty bad. And sources were coming out today saying that the Steelers, which I find completely idiotic, is you got Antonio Brown. He's a personality. He's like the Chad Ochocinco, just not as bad. He loves to dance and he loves to to talk. But they said Pittsburgh will be willing to move on from Antonio Brown if his actions keep up. And okay, what other actions has he really had besides this?
Well, the dancing has gotten a little provocative.
Well,
and I don't know. Like I said, you remember me talking to you brought it up in past podcasts where Antonio Brown wasn't happy?
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh. So, I mean, it could be a cause of that too. And I don't really see I don't know. But I did see where they are talking about fining him.
Well, fine's a fine, but cutting him from a team's a whole other thing, and letting him go to another team is a totally different thing.
But
what if this dude goes to the Patriots? What went wrong? Like, are you kidding me? If this guy, what if he went to the Browns? What if he went to the Browns? He wouldn't change anything, but he did get a couple more touchdowns a year.
What if he went to the Texans?
I'd be happy. But all right.
Oh yeah, I never got your thoughts on how we didn't play good at all and we still beat y'all by 18.
Oh, we talked about it. I straight up told y'all that, I knew going into this game that the Texans were going to have a miraculous defensive ball game to where basically
y'all did.
We did, yes. But we had a Brock Osweiler at quarterback still who still couldn't have done anything. He had a great game in the wild card game. Oh, he had a touchdown. Oh, he had a rushing touchdown too. Look at this guy. Where was he all season? Oh, he's showing up in the playoffs. He was there playing Oakland, an injury-ridden Oakland team whose all motivation was gone because their leader was definitely was hurt. So I wasn't impressed by that. And if anyone thought, this is me being a realistic Texan fan, if anyone thought that the Texans had a chance against that that Patriot defense, especially with that offense, and then our defense against that offense. I was very surprised how the Texans defense stepped up. But I wasn't.
I wasn't.
I really was.
I knew going into this game that it was going to be a little shell shock.
That's the thing. The Texans always have
because they had
really
the number
good
one
defense.
defense.
The Texans always have a great defense.
And Bill O'Brien.
But they just don't step up when they need to because the offense can't offer them any help. The only thing we have on offense going for us right now, I would say, is DeAndre Hopkins, but it has to be Lamar Miller because he's what carried that team.
You don't like the tight end?
Huh?
You don't like the tight end?
I don't want to try to pronounce his name. That's why I didn't say it.
Fedorowicz.
But well, it has to be DeAndre Hopkins because he is the playmaker. But then you have to have Lamar Miller, who is a Le'Veon type-esque player who just keeps drives going. But you have to have a quarterback. Even with Tom Savage, we can't do it. But we invested too much money for Brock Osweiler to send him anywhere after his first year. And it's just like, I think they're stuck in a rut for a couple of years, especially on offense and salary cap-wise because of that humongous contract. But Patriots definitely, they were just outcoached, really, because it was a lot closer game,
like most games with the Patriots.
Than the scoreboard showed. But it's just Belichick is just outcoached Bill O'Brien, experience, and honestly, I think it's just more talent on the offensive side of the football. So that's my thought for that game. But all right, so now we're done. We're good.
We're done.
All right, we're done. JD Marsh, Dylan Marsh, Faceless Wonder, producer Zach, thanks again. And as always, God bless.